Hello, you are listening to the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. Your host, Erica Saccoccio, invites you to join her community of passionate and inspiring leaders in the ECE field, where she discusses, reflects, and shares the best ways to invest in our children, families, teachers, and community. Because after all, we know they are the heartbeat of any successful program.
Did you know that children who develop strong literacy skills by the age 6 are 2.5 times more likely to graduate high school? Imagine how designing standout reading programs can not only boost literacy, but attract parents to your program. Also, it will showcase that your child care center is committed to educational excellence. In today's episode, Unlocking Literacy, Expert Strategies, with our friend from the Toddler Tutor, we're going to talk a little bit about that. So welcome to another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Erica Saccoccio, and we are thrilled to have, and I'm going to say it wrong. She told me how to say it. Tangee, did I get it? Tangee Peek. She is the Toddler Tutor joining us, and she is going to share some transformative strategies to elevate early literacy skills for young children. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or administrator, you're going to gain valuable insights into creating effective reading programs. Plus, learn how childcare owners can develop excellent literacy programs to attract parents and highlight their center's dedication to early childhood education. So let me just tell you, I love her. We met at the Born to Teach conference. We instantly clicked.
Yes.
So welcome to the show, sweetheart. Tell everybody all about your love of literacy and how you have become this amazing tutor that you are.
Oh, wow. First of all, thank you so much, Erica, for having me again. We had so much fun at the Born to Teach conference doing this the first time, and I'm so thrilled to be back. Hello, world. I am Miss Tangee, the Toddler Tutor. I create early literacy and learning resources for little people, and I'm so thrilled to be able to serve in this community of educators and just give you some resources and tips on how to make back to school successful for this academic year. How did I come to love literacy? Oh my gosh. I taught in my 17 years of experience, I was a first grade teacher for 5 of them. So any early educator knows that first grade is like that real, that is where the literacy role really picks up and children are learning to read. So I was chin deep in strategy, children, just all these different practices that really gave me a lot of insight on what works and what doesn't for children. And most recently, as an elementary curriculum coach, I was privy to lots of different curriculums that are rooted in the most current practices. So it has been a journey over the last 17 years about teaching children to read, and having the skill set and the knowledge that I have has made me really, really just, you said an expert. I'm like, I've called myself an expert before, but I'm an expert.
Mm-hmm. I think 17 years in a degree certainly makes you an expert.
Yeah, it does. Experience alone can make you an expert, right, when you're doing it, right? So definitely in this particular area, I've gotten the chance to look at a lot of different do's and don'ts when it comes to literacy and instruction, as well as leadership in this particular area. And I'm just eager to share what I've come across and what can make people really, really profitable when it comes to teaching their kids at home and in their daycare centers.
Yeah. So before the show, I went on your website, and there were a couple of things that I really loved that stood out to me.
Yay!
And your website is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I loved where you said that, excellent reading programs really can set a school apart, and not all schools are created equal.
Yes, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, in my capacity now as the Toddler Tutor, I get to see lots of different avenues of education that I didn't see as a public school teacher and administrator. Daycare centers are their own beast. And because there's so many of them, and there's different regulations and rules when it comes to the curriculum they have to have, they're not all created equal. right? Especially when it comes to the curriculum. So I see that a lot of times there is an emphasis on learning, but when it comes to it being very, very intentional and being targeted and differentiated by student, being data driven, that's where I see that there is a bit of room for improvement in what I've seen. I've seen some centers that are full out curriculum. They're doing read alouds. They're doing all of the current practices. And then there are some that only post with, what the kids are playing and doing centers. And there's no context of what they're learning. And as a teacher, I want to see that. I want to see, like, okay, is your child leaving your center knowing how to read? Can they walk into a classroom confidently and really be able to absorb and grasp the concepts that they're learning in kindergarten? So those are the things that I've seen. And one of the things I want to contribute to improving as I go into this next leg of my career, just giving resources and guidance on what really works and what doesn't. I would think with children, you have a very finite amount of time to mold that brain from the age of 0, from birth to 5, the human brain doubles in size. So that could tell you how important that time is for, like they say, they're like a sponge. That is not an exaggeration. Like, they literally are absorbing everything around them. So if you're going to send your child to a center for 8 hours a day, they need to be putting in some real information that they can use in the real world and when they walk out of that center. So that's where that comes from. And that's what I'm very passionate about.
Yeah. And I love too that you also reference parents being a child's first teacher.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about that before we dig into the nuts and bolts, because I have some thoughts about that too. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, in my opinion, and research also says that children can hear you in the womb. Their brain development starts that early. I mean, it starts as soon as they are able, as the development is, when it starts, it continues. It never ever stops. So with that in mind, even when you're baby's in utero, you should be reading to the baby. You should be talking to the baby. You should be doing things that are always in the mind of, this child can hear me. They should be in a learning environment. My opinion, and my daughter, she's 11 now. She just walked out. Our home has always been her classroom. Always. I had things labeled all over the place. My mother used to say she's going to hate school when she gets there because you always have a flashcard in front of her, but she doesn't. She doesn't hate it. She's a middle school now, so I don't know what she feels about school now sometimes. But anyway, I will definitely say that was a big push for me to make sure that she was always immersed in a learning environment. That was a big, big thing for me, because it's what makes a difference in children, and not just in an academic sense, socially and emotionally as well. So while we're talking about children throwing tantrums, we're talking about children having all these big feelings, they're learning a lot of that behavior from their first teacher, who is their parent. So I think there should be a significant amount of ownership over the role that you play as your child's model. I always say the parent is the child's first mirror. As a mother, I'm my daughter's first mirror. As a father, the son, they're mirrors of each other, right? So that is very important to consider when you're doing anything, especially when it comes to nurturing the love of learning. So making sure that your home is print rich, making sure you're having dialogue with your children, making sure that their screen time is educational and something that makes it sustainable for them to actually learn from. There's a big debate going on about screen time and all that stuff. But the big thing is, if you're going to have a screen in front of your child, make sure that they're learning something from it. All of that goes into the environment that you're really creating for your child, and it can make a big difference academically and socially.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think too, as an administrator, a big part of what we do in our school is that home to school connection.
Yes.
And that happens in early learning centers, especially high quality ones.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times when you're working on, and I'm just going to give this as an example, our parent letter, which is it's probably like 2 or 3 pages long, but in every single month, we give suggested books, suggested
Yes.
literacy, to read books to read to your child, and they're connected to the themes or the lessons that we taught that month,
Mhm.
so that it's a continual,
Oh,
right? So I thought that I thought it would be a good reason to have you on the show, because we can talk a little bit about that, because it isn't, yes, our teachers are teaching, but so are the parents. And part of all good schools is that homeschool connection. And we do have a lot of parents who are on the younger side.
Mhm.
And not that there's anything wrong with that, but just saying, like, they might need a little bit more
Oh,
support. And
definitely.
then you have, and we have people too that move around a lot. Like, you don't have the, 20, 30 years ago, there was like a whole family unit, and you had grandma and
Mhm.
mom, and you had a lot of people in your area, but people move so much for jobs that you may
Mhm.
not have those supports as a parent. So I feel like, as good educators, it's really important for us to think about the whole family. And so that's why,
Yeah, that makes my heart so happy, because that is
Oh,
exactly what our society at large needs. I always said as a teacher, my welcome letter would let my parents know that the classroom doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. You're sending your child to me to be nurtured and taught. So whenever you want to come in and observe, help, whatever, that was fine with me, because I understood I was in a position of service, right? So when it
yes,
comes
ma'am.
to parent and teacher, there should be a partnership. And there's a certain level of relationship and rapport that has to be established before that can be really, really successful, right? Because you just can't walk it off the street and have a relationship. It has to be cultivated. So that
Yes.
sounds awesome. And I love the fact that you have it on, you get them books that are online to what they're learning. So the learning can
Yes.
continue at home through literacy. That is so amazing, because it adds to their ability to speak to what they know, right? It adds to their ability to just make connections based upon what they're learning in school and what they're reading at home, where they might decide to go on a family outing for the weekend. If you're learning about amphibians, I don't know why that was first thought, or animals, and then you from your letter, you're learning about animals. I, as a mom, could say, "Oh wow, we can get these books, and then we can go to the zoo." So it's like a full circle experience that the child can have, where they're again immersed into a learning experience. They're getting impacted by literacy, and they know that there's a partnership between their teacher and their parent. And I'm telling you, that is chef's kiss when it comes to children. Children need to know that their parents care about what they are learning. That is like, that's a cheat code for parents. Please let your parents know. Let your parents let your children know when you talk to their teacher, and teachers, please call your parents. I know the first week of school is very tough. I remember my first year, I passed out and slept 12 hours first Friday. However, if you take Sunday afternoon and early evening and call your parents, and just the fact that you called them to tell them, hey, little Ava had a great week at school. She was so helpful. Because by the first week of school, you really don't have any bad news yet, right? Let's pray. But you can tell them all the great things about their kid, and then the parent is happy because the teacher has called. They're happy to hear that their child did a great job, and the child hears praise given about them from their teacher. That is like, that sets a whole new paradigm when it comes to your partnership with the parent. So please, 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 if you don't listen to anything Miss Tangee says, please make some time to do that this weekend, because it will definitely pay off. Definitely.
Yeah, agreed. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of teaching.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, what are some effective strategies for teachers to support and enhance early literacy skills in young children.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to something that really, really worked for me. And I taught kindergarten, first and second grade. And I think this is something people get away from as children get older. If I were in the classroom now, I don't care whether I was kindergarten to 12th grade, I would still be doing read alouds with my children. Reading out loud to children, first of all, it's soothing, it's relaxing. But for children that young, you're doing so much at one time. You're modeling how to read. You're modeling how to read with enthusiasm. If you go as far as to add think alouds to your read aloud, you're actually activating comprehension skills to that child. So that would be the one thing I would definitely say you could start as, read aloud should be happening anyway at home and daycares, but actually making it an instructional piece to go as far as to say, okay, if I'm going to read this book, what words can I really magnify for the children? What vocabulary adds to the context of the book that the children need to know? How can I use these words in their environment where they'll use them all the time? So there's so much that you can do to really make a read aloud come alive in a classroom. That's number one. Another one I would say is really, really looking at how the new research around the science of reading can be implemented into your daycare or your school. As I said, I've been in education for 17 plus years, and for many, many moons, right? However, this particular research-based instructional strategy, this whole kaboom, bam, boom of the science of reading is the one that really gets it right for me. It's like a combination of all the best practices that I use as a teacher and more that really target making sure children are phonetically competent so they can become fluent and comprehending readers. So what do I mean by that? That sounds like a whole bunch of stuff. Phonics. Children learning how to sound out words, knowing trick words and sight words, knowing how to manipulate their sounds to actually decode a word. Those are the things that's where the rubber meets the road for reading. And I learned that as a kid, but you'd be surprised how many people did not. And now children, we have a whole generation of children are going into college and going into high school and college that cannot read fluently and they're not comprehending because there's a gap in that knowledge base, that very fundamental phonemic awareness. I'm talking about things that you would think children automatically know by a certain age. Some of them do not. So this particular research is giving, and these practices are really filling that bucket in a really great way. And it doesn't have to be through some incredible, it should be through it in a curriculum in a school, don't get me wrong. But as parents, there are things that you can implement right away in your home that start to fill your child's bucket on phonemic awareness, starts to get them into phonics, starts to having them understanding the relationship between the sound makes a letter and letters make words. There's a continuum to that. And then you writing the letter that creates words in print. So there's different things that it really takes you through, and there's lots of people that are addressing it in different ways, but the science of reading is definitely the way to go. I would say that's the most effective curriculum I've seen in a long time as far as literacy is concerned, because it doesn't just deal with comprehension. A lot of people talk about comprehension. Listen, if your children can't decode the words, they don't hear nothing. Okay? So that's just the real deal. So I think it targets that, and it has a very intentional piece. A lot of the curriculums have with differentiating instructions because, as a teacher, you might get 20 kids and they all know different things. They all have different weaknesses and strengths when it comes to literacy. So it gives you the strategies you need to really pinpoint where to start and how to launch from there. So I love it. It is the basis on which I based one of my book that I made, the early literacy book. So it was very, very informative on how I created it. And it's been wonderful and really, really great to implement in kids. So I've loved it so far. That's the one I would definitely suggest.
Yeah. So there was a few things. I just wanted to go back. So there's a few things. So the first thing is, like you said, there's so many things going on when you're doing read alouds.
Oh, yeah.
The first thing is, children start to understand that those funny things on the pages, those words, they have meanings.
They do.
So, they start to understand that.
Yeah.
Especially when you start reading with the toddlers, right?
Yeah.
They might do their little story walks and, look at the pictures.
Yes.
And figure out, also, I thought the other thing is that real world connection
Yes.
starts to happen. Like you said, prior to that. And then also just something as simple as how to hold a book. Right?
Yes.
Children are not born with that. How to hold the book.
Yes.
The print goes this way to this way, right?
Yes.
Learning all the parts of the book. You know,
Yes.
this is the spine, this is the cover. Who's an author? What's an illustrator?
Yes.
So even beyond just reading the book, like there's so many things that you can teach and bring
Yes.
just by having that book in their hand.
Yes.
And then I just think it makes it. I love reading. I too am like you with the reading.
Yes.
I have literally a bookshelf that goes like from floor to ceiling with all children's
Wow.
books that sits in my office. Every one of my offices have that. So I have books that are in the classroom and then books that are in my office that I take out specifically. So I love to read to my kids.
I love that.
When I'm like, I need a break from the paperwork, let me see what book I'm going to bring.
Go get a
But
book.
even my school age children love, and you know, some people don't think that, but even my school age children love when I do a read aloud. Right?
Yes.
They yes.
Oh.
So one of their I'm sorry.
No,
Go ahead.
I was thinking about one of the time last time I taught second grade. I love Roald Dahl. And one of the books that I read was The Witches. And when I tell you children, second graders, they used to vote on whether or not they wanted to read it. I always read it before lunch. It was like a 10, 15-minute period. We had some downtime and I would read it before lunch. And they would vote like, are we going to go outside today or do we want to hear another chapter? And 7 times out of 10, they chose to read. And I was floored by that. But it just lets you know how much love children can have for literacy. When you put it in front of them, you make it accessible to them. A lot of them, as I said, when they're growing up, they said, I read The Witches. I'm like, you did? You know, and they were in 6th grade, you know, whatever. But they read the book because they loved it so much in our class. So it is literally the gift that keeps on giving when you introduce children to specific authors. If you know a child has a particular interest. My daughter's second grade teacher, she gave her a collection of Roald Dahl books. That just has to be a commonality of ours. And that was one of the things my child read all the time. She always was reading the Roald Dahl book. So those things really do go a long way when it comes to the school age kids, not just the little ones, and beyond. Beyond.
Yeah, so I think, as an owner, when you put your owner hat on and you're trying to figure out how are you going to compete with all of these new types of schools, whether it's a charter school, UP, universal pre-K, like you're competing with a lot of different types of schools now that you may not have been competing with like 10 years ago. So one of the things that, going back to the school age kids is we would read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And I'm Italian, and then what do you think we did next?
Oh, you ate spaghetti with meatballs.
We made some meatballs and spaghetti. Yes, we did. So I love making that real world connection. And books is like, and the other thing I think too is children love to hear read alouds when there's people like you and me reading aloud.
That's true.
Because we're very active. We're interactive. So if the kids don't want you to keep reading aloud, that means you need to practice on your reading aloud.
Listen. We don't make the news, we just report it, okay?
Yes, ma'am. So, and then I think too, in Rhode Island, we have the Rhode Island Early Learning Standards, and many states have their learning standards for their early childhood education. And part of that, they had put together these really fantastic family activity cards. And so they would give you different ideas and activities that you could send home with the families to get them actively engaged and involved with their child's learning.
I love that.
Yeah, and then I had one, and I'm going to get to the next question. Today I had another teacher who was so smart. She did environmental phonics. Have you ever heard of that?
No, what's that?
So what she did was she found places in our community that had all the different letters. So like we have like an Ace Hardware. So she would have their logo of Ace Hardware, and she would be like, A says and she'd be like, so
I love that.
I thought it was so cool. So as kids were driving in the car, they were able to identify the sounds of the signs that they saw.
I love that.
So
I love that.
So there's so many fun, creative ways that you can really bring this into your classrooms beyond flashcards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beyond flashcards, right?
Yes.
Yeah, beyond
because
flashcards.
You know what?
So,
it makes it real for children. I mean, A is for Apple is great, but if I walk out, a child would lose their mind if they rolled past and saw the A on the A's house. That's A!
Yes.
I know it from my school, so I think
Yes.
that's,
Yeah.
I really do. I might have to
Yeah.
admire and acquire and admire.
All right.
That's amazing.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
I love it.
Yeah. So let's talk about what steps can administrators take to build and maintain a literacy-rich environment in schools and childcare centers.
I would say for that, invest in a solid curriculum. Definitely think about one that is multifaceted, because as an administrator, I'll sit on my teacher hat now. Don't give me some half-baked curriculum that you bought pieces of.
Mhm.
The input of teachers, that's the number one thing I would say. Get your teachers involved on what they're going to teach. Because if I have a sense of ownership over what was purchased, I'm more likely to implement it, right? Go and research it and see what it is that might be coming to my classroom. I can give my feedback. Even if you decide to go another way, at least I feel involved, right? But that would be the first thing I would say. If you're looking for a reading curriculum that you want to invest in for your school, get the teachers' input, because they know what they like. They know what they want their children to learn. They're teaching. They're the ones doing the heavy lifting. They're doing the teaching. So give them an opportunity to have a voice in what they're going to be teaching. That's number one. In regards to curriculum for a sound literacy program, definitely think about something that incorporates the science of reading. I cannot say that enough, because building phonemic awareness is going to be where the rubber meets the road. So if you, as a daycare owner, if you are starting there and you're launching forward, as long as you're building that capacity in children, you will have children walking out of your doors at 4 and 5 knowing how to read, which is marketable. I have a daycare that I work with, and I told them, I said, listen, you got children walking out of here that can read. I would say charge $350 a week. I would pay that. If I had a toddler and I had to go to work and I really wanted them to learn I don't want a babysitter, because I know how precious that time is. I'm putting them somewhere where they're going to learn, and I'm going to pay you whatever you say, because that is my aim for my child. That's an investment. So I would definitely say something that gives teachers access to resources that will give them knowledge on the science of reading, like concrete ability to implement a lesson in phonemic awareness, something easy, like, can I make suggestions? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, so
of course you can.
It's
our show, girl.
I know, right? And I love Haggerty. It was I used it in my school. It was for phonemic awareness. Absolutely phenomenal. They have decodables. They have the lessons are literally laid out for you. All you have to do is look at the script, make it your own, and go. Let's see what else for reading. Let's see, foundations for phonics. And they all seamlessly go together. So finding a comprehensive reading curriculum that is seamless up through, I guess, 5th grade. So that way you can give some continuity as far as what the children are learning, and they're applying those skills that they learn each year as they go along. That would be my biggest piece of advice. Invest in it. Don't piece it together. Give the teachers everything, or at least get them the comprehensive pieces that they need to implement it with fidelity. That would be my take.
Yeah, I think that is great advice too. And the other thing is, many parents, especially if you have those school-age children after school, they're really looking for that help with homework help and helping with academic help. They're looking for that help because, let's face it, you're a parent, you get home at 6 o'clock and now you've got to do all the other things that, the showers and the dinner and all the things. They don't have time for 2 hours of homework, and the 10 minutes they have with their kids, they want to maybe enjoy it. So, they're counting on you to help with that academic support for sure.
Absolutely.
An after school program.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, how can childcare owners develop strong reading programs to attract parents and set their centers apart from the competition? So maybe we can help them with maybe some ideas. Maybe they're new and they don't know where to start.
Let me see. I would say to have them like the marketable, I would say creating a really positive learning environment is key. Making sure that you're hiring people that love kids, that want to teach kids. That those two things 1 + 1 do not always equal 2. I would definitely say starting with the staff that wants to be a part of cultivating the greatness of a child, because that's not always the case, right? And that's the same in schools, right? You have to want to be there and want to give your all to children. That would be the number one thing. Also, when it comes to the programming, just making sure you have something sustainable to teach with children. I think we just kind of answered that a little bit in that last question. But because to me, as a parent, I want to know my child is safe. I want to know my child is loved, and I want to know my child is learning. Those were the biggest things for me when I was a parent with a child at childcare age. I wanted to know those things. So making sure as a daycare owner that your environment is clean, it's beautiful, it's super developmentally appropriate, it's colorful, it's welcoming, it's comfortable for my child. The food is yummy. If they're getting a wide variety of food, if that's a part, the nutrition is a part of your program. Your teachers are great. If you're around a kid, I don't say childcare teacher. If you have the influence of children at your fingertips, you are teaching them. So treating them with the utmost respect and giving them the training that they need to feel really empowered to implement the things that you want them to do, that is super important. I will be looking at how your teachers are trained, what they are learning, what practices can they speak to. I would treat a daycare teacher like I would a kindergarten teacher, or a preschool teacher. I need to know your stuff. So that, and also a super rigorous academic program, because that's the money and that you give. I hear now daycare is a mortgage payment for some people. Mm-hmm. I know people that have literally told me they paid 6 figures already for childcare, and I'm like, what? Shout out to Miss King. I only paid $140 a week for her. So,
well, but if I want to, let me just, I want to stop you right there for 1 second.
Please, yes.
So there's a lot of words that get interchanged a lot in our field.
Okay.
So I want to tell you, early childhood education has changed tremendously.
Oh, yeah.
And many of the ladies that now work in early childhood settings have teaching degrees. My infant teacher has 2 master's degrees.
You told me that.
I have 2 licensed teachers that could work at the state level in the public school, but they don't. They choose to work in early childhood. So that's kind of where some of that comes from. The cost is because, again, we're not babysitters at all. Mm-hmm. Most of us don't even use the word childcare anymore, honestly, or you certainly don't use daycare. But
Absolutely not.
It's an early learning center, and they are really teachers. And so, I'm sorry, but that's a super hot button for me.
Oh,
so I just want to clarify, because I know there are people that are listening right now who are like, wait, you better stop her right now, Erica. So I just want to clarify that there are very distinct differences. And so I'm not sure that many programs are daycare, childcare anymore. Most of us are early learning centers, and particularly the ones that are still around.
Yeah.
Because again, people are now picking between whether I'm going to send my child to public school or early learning center. Right. And there's pros and cons to both, but right. So I just want to make that distinction. I did not mean to cut you off.
No, it's fine. So, please get me together, please.
I didn't mean to cut you off. But,
it's fine.
So, what would you say, like, the most common challenges to educators? What do you think the most common challenges would be for them to implement a literacy program?
The biggest challenges, I would say, I don't want to sound like a broken record, like just literally having a lack of access to the resources that they need to really implement it. I would say that. Mm-hmm. I would say, even if they have the resources, have they had enough professional development to actually implement it with fidelity? I know as a teacher, I always wanted to know what was best for my children, because if you tell me it was good for my kids, I was going to do it. So I would want to make sure that teachers have what they need to feel successful standing in front of children and teaching the strategies and going along with the curriculum. That would be the biggest thing I would suggest. And it would be a challenge. Another challenge would be This isn't a big challenge. So, and as an administrator, I was really, I held this sacred for my teachers, that playing time.
Mm.
So it sounds really good to say, okay, here's this curriculum, go and do it and teach your kids. Well, when are they going to do it? Like give teachers enough time to actually, okay, whether it's a day, whether it's a half a day, whether it's an hour or so, they need to have time in which they can actually prepare. Because if you're an adult, you have responsibilities. I don't care whether you're single, married, no kids, 5 kids. There is something else you need to do when you leave work, and you really don't want it to be work. You want it to be something that is something that will sustain you as an adult, right? So those are the things I would want people to really. I wanted my teachers to do. I was myself and my principal at the time. We were very, very like, listen, go out, do things. They're like, we don't have time. We got a plan. So as much as we could, we didn't interrupt that time. So they had the time they needed to actually flush out their ideas on how they would want to teach kids. So having that would be amazing. And just giving them the tools that they need to get it done. I have faith in teachers. I believe you until you give me a reason not to, that you love kids, you love to teach. So I think those are the things that could be game changers for teachers if they just had the resources.
Yeah, I think that's amazing advice. So as a childcare owner, no, really, that is something that they don't get enough planning time. They just really don't. You have to be really intentional about making that happen. And sometimes that means for the half day, you as administrator, you're going in the room, and that educator is going to your office and do their lesson planning. But yeah, I would say that is a challenge for some centers for sure.
Yeah.
For many, many reasons. But I think that's really great advice. And if you want to have an exceptional program, you have to be committed to that investment of not only the curriculum and getting great curriculum, as you had mentioned, but that time for them to actually implement it. They have to read what the lessons, especially if they didn't create the lesson. I got to read it. How am I going to implement it? How am I going to make it a little different for Johnny as opposed to Susie?
Absolutely.
So that's great advice. So we're going to get a little bit as we get closer to wrapping up. How can technology, and I wanted to end with this because of your books that you have, and we'll talk about that. Yes. I love them too. I've got them at my school. They're fantastic. So let's talk about how technology can be effectively integrated into early literacy programs.
Well, I am, as much as I love for children to have interactive hands-on activities in front of them, technology is a way of life. Like, we live in a digital world, and children are going to have to be able to make decisions about what they should watch, what they should do, and putting them in front of really, really well thought out and just academically rich content is going to be is very, very important, especially in the near future. Everything is going digital. Like, you barely can get kids right with a pencil anymore, right? So with that in mind, I would definitely say if you're going to have screen time with kids and implement technology in the classroom, make sure it's something that is first aligned with what you want them to learn. So let's say you have a really great curriculum. Most of them have a digital component that you could use in the classroom. I was just talking about one today, reading A through Z. They have print. I love them because they have an ability for you to print out books, but they also have ability for you to get access the same book digitally. So you might have the hard copy of a book in class, but when you go home, you can read the same book on your tablet. So there's a good balance that can be achieved with technology if it's used responsibly. I definitely would say making sure that their apps on the tablet are definitely rigorous. I think sometimes you have some math is super repetitive and it's really bright and it's all that. But I'm like, listen, how many ways are we going to count counters? Can we get something that really promotes growth for children? Like iReady. That's a really great curriculum that you can have your child, if it gives you a diagnostic, something that gathers data. That's what I was thinking. Something that gathers data for you as a teacher. I'm all about killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So if you get a program that is technology-based, make sure it's something that can give you information about the child, something that does differentiate learning for the child. Like, they have their own track of learning that is based upon that diagnostic assessment. I think iReady does that. Freckle does that. There are several others that are really good with that. And that gives you information you can, again, share with parents. Well, iExcel is good with that too. Very, very good with that. So I would say making sure it's something that helps engage the children, but also is able to give information to the teacher, because that's the person we're trying to keep alive. Okay.
Yeah.
So as much as possible, help the teacher out with giving the child something that is aligned to curriculum. They can get some data off of it, and it's something the child can actually use at home that addresses differentiation instruction too. And if you really want something super fun, the Disney books are always an incredible option. So my Disney books also incorporate YouTube videos as well, because that's a way of life too. I mean, that's my daughter and my niece are in it. They're watching YouTube. They're not watching TV. They're watching that. So putting that, even things like that are academically rich and aligned to what you're learning in front of children, all of that should be like a full plate of things that can pull from and be engaged in academic rigor. So technology is definitely the way to go, but it has to be dealt with responsibly. That's the key.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So my final question is, tell folks about who the Toddler Teacher is, what you do, and about your process.
Well, the Toddler Tutor is an educator. I'm a believer. I'm a mom. I am a servant. I am so many things that wrap up into this t-shirt. This is birthed out of an answered prayer and just a passion for children, leaving my classroom confident, happy, competent students. I pride myself on being able to say I have sent children into the world better than they were before I came, whether it's academically or socially, emotionally. You're going to learn a lot of things from Miss Tangee if we spend enough time together. So that is a part of what I brought to this new business. It has been the ride of my life. I mean, this is like my second child, and it is been such a blessing to me, my family, and everyone else that has a busy book. So the first book that I developed was out of basically just as a kindergarten teacher, seeing so many children walk into my classroom from early learning centers that the first thing that I want everybody to know, when you send your child to school, public or private, they're going to assess your child. They want to know what your child knows so they can know how to address them academically, as well as just to see where they fit. Do they have some deficiencies that they need to address right away? So I would see so many children coming in from these fancy centers, and they didn't know how to count to 100, and they didn't know their letters. And, I would have parents sitting in front of me like, my child knows their ABCs. And that's okay, so how do you know that? They sing the song all the time. That's a song. I can sing a lot of songs. That doesn't mean I know anything about what they're talking about. So those are the things that I saw. And after having conversations with even friends of mine, that we all had kids that were in the same age range, and I was doing things with my daughter that they weren't. And they were like, oh, yeah, the daycare child, they'll do it. The childcare center will do it. I'm like, no, they're not. So it was so pressed upon me to just do something and give a product that, especially after COVID, because so many kids were on devices all the time. And especially for the littles, I went back into my school and kids did not write. They were writing with their fingers. The kindergartners that were during COVID, they didn't even know how to hold a pencil because they were writing and tracing things with their fingers. So I wanted something that was more hands-on for children to be able to really interface with what they're learning, something that parents could help, and is very, very simple. And I, being a teacher, I don't believe you know anything unless I taught it. So that is why there's videos in there. So I'm there to help you facilitate this so you get it right. So that is where the Early Learning Busy Book was. That's when it was developed. It has evolved over time. It has dry erase activities. It has opportunities for you to practice uppercase letter matching and lowercase letter matching. You have the beginning sounds. You have numbers to 0 to 20, shapes, colors, days of the week, months of the year, all of this. Can I show it?
Yeah. So now the only people are going to be able to see this if you go to our YouTube channel. So go to our YouTube channel.
And
Child Care
subscribe.
Director's Chair. Hit the subscribe.
That's right.
And watch the video.
Period. Go look at it. So this book is absolutely amazing. You can match your uppercase and lowercase letters. You have a QR code here that takes you straight to YouTube and to me teaching about the letters. You have the beginning sounds here. There's an object that matches every single letter's beginning sound. You can match it to the letter. There's a QR code there for that. Oh, and on the back here, your activities that you can use with your child. You can look for uppercase and lowercase letters, go on the alphabet hunt. Let's say you have a child that you know is struggling with identifying the letter M. Have that child go on a hunt every day for the letter M. This is a really good way to differentiate instruction. 0 to 20 for your numbers. There is numbers 3 ways. You have your numeral. You also have your set of objects and the number word that corresponds to each number. Again, there's another dry erase section of that. Colors. All your basic colors, dry erase quartz. Go there. You have shape. You have your days of the week. Everything has an activity to match every concept and a QR code for the month of the year. You have fine motor skills and handwriting practice here for tracing and a dry erase color sheet. It's 2 pages of that. This is a multi-sensory page. And that's where you can trace out letters and shapes and you can fill them in different textures and then write them here on the dotted line. And last but not least, Toddler Tutor affirmations, in which this is a compilation of all the things I told children over the years, that they were smart, that they're made with a purpose, that they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and they're powerful beyond measure. So this was a model for my room. We create excellence. It was in front of every single room where I taught. So I have a chance to impart this upon millions of children that will have this Toddler Tutor busy book. So that's one. And where's the other one? Oh. This one's really deep, so I'm not going to go dive deep. You got to buy it. Go look on my website and buy this one. This is the Early Literacy I Am Reading Busy Book. This, I'm Ready to Read Busy Book. This is a book that really gives, it's this thick. It's super interactive. It has over 60 words, all Velcroed into the pages. It also has, oh goodness. It has decoding pads. It has a mirror where you can do a sound check with me, where you can see your own face doing the sounds. It has everything a child would need in order to become a fluent reader. But this is perfect for a kindergartner. And again, I'm in here too to help you along the way. I do talk to the children, but it's really to the parent, because I want y'all to get this right. Don't mess it up. The kids have to know this stuff. So I want you to go ahead and grab it. You can go on my website, get it. It will be literally in the classrooms. This is used as independent practice. This is used as a small group resource, assessment, all kinds of good stuff. And whole group too, if you want to buy a whole set. So there's lots of ways you can use this. And it was really developed because, like I said, you want something, as a teacher, you want something that's comprehensive and something I can use in a multitude of ways. Like, I couldn't stand going to all these little boxes and buying this, buying. I'm like, I don't want to do that. And then eventually, you don't have time to look through all that curriculum. So what do? You go to teachers, pay teachers, you print something out, you pay $2 for it, and you have something that's in your hand. Versus having to figure out curriculum, I am in the book teaching you how to facilitate this. So, as a bonus, I'm providing professional development to child care professionals also. Early learning professionals. So there's so much in this book that it literally is this is my favorite book. Don't tell the early learning book that, but this is my favorite one because it literally embodies everything that I love about teaching children how to read. If they are able to read at the end of this book, I've done my job. So that's it. That's what I do. That's what I offer. Follow me on Instagram, all that good stuff. And I look forward to serving you soon. The Toddler Tutor. Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
You're so
And
welcome.
for my folks that are listening, if you love these daily episodes, we want you to continue to tune in daily. We want to continue to keep making great content and bringing amazing specialists like our friend here today.
Yay!
So it's super easy to support our show. Just take a couple minutes, hit that support the show link. You can send a $5 contribution, buy me a cup of tea because I don't drink coffee. But any support for the show would be amazing. And as always, it's the small details that make a big impact on the success of your childcare business. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Childcare Director's Chair.